Today's conversation is sponsored by First Generation Capital Partners. If you're an accredited investor and you want to know about how we're helping other accredited investors keep more of their income, go to firstgencp.com/going long.
It's vital to say, like, how am I living my life now? How am I spending my time? And write down what are those things that are most important to you. And then take a look at how much time am I investing into each of these?
You're listening to the Going Long podcast with Billy Keels, the #1 podcast for long-distance real asset investing.
Welcome to the Going Long podcast. We're back once again to continue to help to educate you so that you feel much more comfortable as well as confident investing beyond your backyard. And yes, I am your host, Billy Keels, and I'm here to welcome you back to another fantastic conversation because today's guest absolutely crushes it. You're going to love today's conversation, especially if you are looking to become an even wiser investor, if you're looking to find about real wealth and how that happens and building that around networks. Today's a conversation you're really going to want to stick around for. So I cannot thank you enough for continuing to leave your honest written reviews as well as ratings. It's helping us to move up the charts, which is absolutely fantastic. Love seeing this happen week over week, and it's great. And if you have not had a chance to give an honest written review as well as rating, we made a very easy little video here. Specifically, it's for the Apple podcast platforms. If you want to just take a couple seconds, you can leave it there. It's really simple, really easy. Would greatly appreciate it. The other thing is, and this is new, this is like super, I want to keep talking to everybody about it because if you're looking for every single episode from all of the episodes from the very beginning, from episode number 1 all the way to 220 some odd, or I guess there are more than that now at this point, you can go to firstgencp.com/podcasts. You can find every single thing that you need there. The show notes, you can find the transcripts, you can find the videos, the audio, all of it, you can find it there. So just go ahead and check it out there and it will be absolutely phenomenal. So listen, so that's going to be awesome. And the other thing is I want you to get into today's conversation because today's conversation is really going to help you. Today's conversation, the guest is fantastic. Loads of experience, has gone from, hearing life-ending type of medical conditions to really understanding the value of time. And from there, he and his wife have built a network of helping people understand real wealth and being able to do that across the U.S. And has also recently just come out with a book called The Wise Investor. We're going to get to that conversation with Rich Fettke just after this. Are you a busy, high-paid professional? Someone that in the previous 2 years has earned $200,000 and is expected to earn $200,000 this year? Or maybe if you filed jointly, previously you've earned $300,000 the previous 2 years and you're also expected to do that this year. Or maybe if not, either individually or jointly, you have $1 million in net worth, not including your primary residence. If you meet any of these criteria, then you're someone that the IRS considers to be an accredited investor. That probably means you're someone like an enterprise software sales executive. You may be an executive in a major corporation. You may be a doctor. You may be a lawyer, maybe a high-paid consultant. You may even work for a major sports franchise. The thing I know you have in common is that you continue to do the hard work. Like you're doing 100% of the work and you're only bringing home 50% of the reward because you continue to get crushed by your income taxes. If you are tired of this situation and you're looking for a new solution, then go to firstgencp.com/going long. When you get there, that's going to help you to start the journey so that you can begin to take back control of your taxes, take control of your time. And then also that means you're going to be able to spend more of the time that you want with the people that you love the most. And that is the way that you're going to get the personal freedom that you're looking for. So if you're looking to take back control, go ahead and go to firstgencp.com/going long and see how we can help you today. So if you want to understand how being a wise investor can bring you real wealth in the long distance investing game, then guess what? Today's the conversation you're going to want to listen to until the very last word. You know why? Because today's guest, listen to this, not only loved and loves adrenaline, he was an ex-competitor in the X Games, the ESPN X Games. I think that's fantastic. He also started his professional career as a president of a franchise business in the health fitness industry. I definitely want to hear about that. You know what? Also, too, today he is a co-host of The Real Wealth Show. He is also the principal of the Fettke Group, as well as the co-founder of Real Wealth. And he is the author of The Wise Investor. It gives me great pleasure to welcome to today's conversation, Mr. Rich Fettke. Rich, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Happy to be here. Yeah, you put a lot into the show to make it good. So I really appreciate that.
You know what? It's I'm very, very blessed to have a wonderful team, and they let me get here and have wonderful conversations with guests like yourself. So I really, really enjoy what we're doing. So thank you very much for that acknowledgement. Appreciate it. Rich, listen, I know we kind of talked about this, but here everybody's going to get, and since you're our special guest today, you're going to get 5 questions. You're going to get 2 in the beginning, and you're going to get 3 in the end. And this is really a chance for the Going Long family to get to know more about you, your story, and the value that you're adding to tens of thousands of people around the globe. So I'd like to get started, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Are you ready?
Do it.
All right,
Yeah.
perfect. Hey, Rich, help us understand, where is it that you live in the United States?
I'm in this little town with 13,000 people called Malibu, California.
Malibu, California. I think that's over on the left coast of the United States.
We're on the left coast. Yep. We pay a high sunshine tax here.
Hey, you know what, Rich? I can relate to that because here in Barcelona, I definitely pay a high sunshine tax as well.
Right. Yeah. It's worth it.
Yeah, definitely worth it. Definitely worth it. The other thing is, I'd love to get us started out with some positivity as well. Can you share with us, what's the most positive thing that's happened to you in the last 24 hours?
In the last 24 hours, I'm going to say FaceTiming with my grandson yesterday. He's 2.5, and my daughter, our older daughter, he's not feeling well. They only live 25 minutes away, but he wasn't feeling well. But just, looking into his eyes and hearing that cute little voice, that was very positive.
Yeah, you know what? I love those moments and being able to share those. You made me think about when my kids were small and we would do FaceTime and Skype with my parents across the pond. So those simple moments are so important, and I really appreciate you sharing that with us today. So, Rich, I got to make another kind of confession to you. So I know we're kind of just meeting here, but
Wow.
I tend to like to keep the bar really, really high. And by doing that, sometimes I give myself these like really impossible tasks, kind of impossible tasks, like trying to tell your entire backstory in 2.5 seconds. Not going to ever, yeah, it never ever was going to happen, right? But I kind of have to try things. So here's the thing. So hopefully you'll forgive me, number one. And secondly, more importantly, if you could help me, and basically help me by telling your backstory in your own words. And also, if I could just add one more thing, if you wouldn't mind talking to us about some of the major decisions that you've also made along the way, and then we'll see where you and I take the conversation from there.
Sure. Yeah. How far do we want to go back on the backstory?
It's really up to you, man. It's all your story.
All right. Well, yeah, I want to do, if we have to try to do this in 2.5 seconds. So,
no, I tried to do it in 2.5 seconds when I was telling the 2 or 3 things, but you can take as much time as you want, man.
Oh, got it. Okay, cool. Well, let's see. I grew up in Boston, Massachusetts. I was diagnosed learning disabled, hyperkinetic, which they didn't have a name for ADHD back then. When I was 8 years old, I was diagnosed that and put on Ritalin and had a really hard time in school. So I had this gremlin in my head that was always telling me, you're stupid and you're never going to amount to anything. And then it wasn't until late in high school, my junior year, I was getting bullied by this kid in gym class, and he was just punching me every day. And I decided to start lifting weights. And that was what turned my life around. I learned the discipline of weight training, of setting goals, and starting to see that I could reach those goals. And then it worked so well that I started to apply that to my educational goals and learned about putting systems and structures in place. And that had me get obsessed with personal growth and personal development and business growth. Went on to get my business degree, opened up a health club when I was 23. And it started to build on this belief of, wow, maybe I am not that stupid. I didn't even graduate with my high school class. I had to go back to summer school. So overcoming that inner gremlin was a challenge. But it's, when we overcome things, I think it makes us stronger and better. Yeah. And I feel I'm stronger and better today because I have more discipline and I've learned structures and things. In 1995, I moved out of Boston area, sold my health club, and moved out to Northern California. And I met this amazing woman 6 months later. Her name's Kathy. Now it's Kathy Fettke. And I had started a chain of one-on-one fitness training centers out there. But then I heard about this thing called coaching, and it was new. This is 1995. So coaching was new. But I saw this ad about, do you like to help people? Are you into personal growth? Do you like to help people achieve and grow and learn? And so I signed up to become a certified coach. That led me to becoming elected, I served on the board of a coaching organization and then was elected president of that coaching organization. That led to the media. It became the big buzzword, coaching was all over the place. And so I started to have the media do stories on me and stories on my clients. I had a TV front page of the San Francisco Chronicle. And all that led to a book deal with Simon & Schuster. And I was speaking all over the country on top of my game. And then I noticed this freckle. I'm ginger. I have a lot of freckles, but this one was a big one. So I went in and I was diagnosed with melanoma, which is the most life-threatening form of skin cancer, which no real big deal, but I had the surgeries to remove it. But then they did a test and they noticed that there were masses on my liver. So after several tests in a few months, I met with an oncologist and he said, it looks like the melanoma has spread to your liver and you have about 6 months to live. By then, Kathy and I had we had a 10-year-old daughter, a 3-year-old daughter. It rocked our world. A lot of tears, a lot of despair. Mm-hmm. And Kathy was a stay-at-home mom. And so she's like, I got to find a way to make ends meet if Rich dies. And so she had this small, like a little radio show, more of a hobby that she would have guests on and talk about coaching topics. She was also a certified coach. Mm-hmm. And so she decided I have to find a way to learn about finance and a way to make an income. And so she shifted her focus to interviewing people who are successful financially. And not to our surprise, right? Most of those people had made their money and their wealth through real estate. Mm-hmm. So she got excited about that. She came home and said, I've got a solution. And she sought out mentors who taught her about real estate investing. In the meantime, the doctors realized it was a misdiagnosis. I had a PET scan, which is the most advanced scan for cancer, and it showed 0 cancer on my liver. So it was a false diagnosis. It was just hemangiomas, little clusters of blood vessel that most of us have somewhere in our body. But that was the desperation and the impetus for Kathy to get out there and say, what am I going to do? And that's what led us to real estate investing. So we started to invest out of California. We went to the Dallas, Texas area and bought a bunch of investment properties. Kathy actually had Robert Kiyosaki on her show as it started to get bigger. And he was saying, sell your high-priced California properties and invest in Texas. And he saw the growth that was coming there. And so that's what we did. And that led us to real estate investing. We had people asking how we did it. Listeners of Kathy's show were saying, how did you do it? And so we decided to form a little group of investors. We thought it'd be a couple hundred people. And today that group has grown to now over 64,000 members that we've helped create financial freedom through real estate.
Wow. That's absolutely inspiring story, number one. I appreciate you sharing just the highlights of the story. And a couple of things. Of course, I want to talk about a number of different things, but maybe going directly to the question from the show, right? Is you kind of threw that in there. You said you were living in Northern California, but Robert Kiyosaki mentioned to go purchase properties in Texas, and so you kind of did it. Was that around 2000? Because if the timeline is right, is that sometime around there?
That was about 2003. Yeah, because my book came out in 2002 and I got that diagnosis soon after that. So it was 2003, 2004. Yeah.
Okay. Well beyond or well before the 2020 exodus from California to other places, right? So you're doing this well in advance. At the time, most people are saying, invest in your backyard, right? That's one of the things that I always heard.
Yeah,
which was, be a landlord, invest beyond your, invest right where you can see the property, go over, check it out every day, and you can make $200-300 a door.
Yes.
At the same time, you and Kathy did something that was very contrarian at the time.
Right.
So can you also help us understand what was it that gave you all the impetus at the time to say, I'm going to invest in properties that are literally thousands of miles away? Because most people would think that was never, ever even possible. Today I'm doing it tens of thousands of miles away. Yeah. It's somewhat acceptable, but you were doing it 20 years ago. Talk to us about that.
Well, 20 years ago, we had the internet. And before that, we didn't. So many people were caught in that old belief of, I have to be able to go by and check the property. I have to inspect it. I have to do my due diligence on it. I have to manage it myself. And, it was the old, they call it the 30-minute rule back then. It's like, make sure the properties are within 30 minutes of where you live so you can get there when needed. and unplug a toilet or whatever. We didn't like that idea. And so with the internet and realizing that, we did fly out to Dallas and we met with some real estate brokers and they toured us around these properties. And honestly, they were new builds. They were from D.R. Horton. They were $145,000. And they were renting for $1,500 to $1,600 a month. So it was hit that 1% rule. And we realized that anything we needed with property management in place, and with the ability to send us, photos or videos instantly of the properties, or send us any documents or connect with us, there wasn't any need to stay 30 minutes away. So it worked incredibly well.
Yeah. So I love that and I hope that the entire Going Long family, that you heard what Rich said, that they got on an airplane and actually went there. So I'm sure it wasn't just directly the airplane. I'm sure you had conversations with people. You developed it as if you were developing a normal relationship. And when it made the most sense for you to take the relationship to the next level, i.e. meet people face to face, help them to understand that you were serious about building relationships as well as making purchases, you took the next logical step. And so I think sometimes when we talk about it, if we don't hear it from someone like yourself, Rich, we think, well, you can do everything 100% long distance. And sometimes you do need to actually get and meet with people, especially when you're building something of significance.
Yeah.
Did you want to add anything there?
There's something about, that meeting people thing. There's something about also meeting the property managers.
Yes.
I think that's a powerful one. So we'd go out and we'd meet with property managers and say, what are the typical rents around here? And what are the challenges that you seem to encounter? And what are your tenants like? And what areas of this city or this area would you recommend investing in? Things like that. So feedback from a property manager is just as powerful than the broker who's trying to sell you a property.
Yeah. Could you maybe talk to us a little bit more about that? Because this will be really great insight for those individuals that say, okay, well, I thought the broker was the most important person to talk to. What are you deciphering from the property managers when you're speaking to them, Rich?
Well, it's just one that's just kind of this gut level. Do I trust this person? And you can get that. There's something about human beings. We have this built-in, almost a lie detector, and we can sense who someone is. And it's so being face to face with someone, there's that sense. So going out and just asking those questions, first connecting with a person and saying, what's your philosophy on property management? What's your approach? What makes you different than other property managers? You can start to kind of feel the person. It's like a job interview. You can kind of feel them out and be like, what do they like? How do they operate? What are their core values? So starting with that on the foundational thing, do I know this person? Do I trust this person? Do I like this person? And then going on more of those technical questions, like I was saying, what areas of the city should I invest? Things like that.
Yeah, and this is it's fantastic. I appreciate you breaking that down for us a bit more. And in Going Long family, this is one of the things that Rich is also sharing with you in that example is there are different members of the team that have different responsibilities. So he mentioned the broker, right, on the sales side of things, is they have a particular role. When Rich is talking about investing that time with the property manager, that they are the individuals who are going to be operationally responsible for the day-to-day of your investment. So it's a very good idea to get their perspective. As Rich said, make sure that that's someone or a team that you like, that you're getting to know and that you trust, because they are the ones who are going to be spending the most amount of time with your clients, who are your residents, your tenants. And it is a very, very great recommendation to make sure that you spend time with the property manager before you start to invest more in a specific location. So
yeah. And that's what we've done at Real Wealth. That was our purpose. That's when people were saying, how did you do this? And we were explaining it. Then we said, well, why don't we set that up? And so that's what we started to do, is develop relationships with brokers and property teams that had properties available and property managers around the country. And so that's what we do now as a group. And that's those 64,000 people that we've helped. That's how we help them. We go out, we meet the property managers, we vet them. We're almost kind of like the Yelp, because we keep an eye on them. So right now we have 15 different property teams and brokers around the country, mostly in the Southeast and in the South. And we have gone out, we've done our due diligence on them. We've met with the property managers. And then a lot of these property teams and brokers we've worked with for over 10 years, some even longer. So we get to know their reputation. And if they mess up, we go to them and say, hey, take care of this member, or we won't be able to refer to you anymore. So it's a really cool, it's a cool network.
So can you maybe expand a little bit more on the network? Like, because it sounds ideal. Like we here, Rich, we have a lot of people who are high paid professionals. We have a lot of IT sales executives. So surprise, surprise, that's where I came from. We have a lot of people who are doctors, lawyers, who are busy and want to be able to do things. And this sounds very interesting in terms of the network. So maybe you could talk to us a little bit more about that person of those 64,000. Like maybe talk to us about that person that you're really helping and finding that the network is adding the most value to.
Absolutely. I mean, you just nailed it. That is exactly it. So we started in the San Francisco Bay Area. Now we live in Malibu, but we've been here 12 years. But before that, we were in the Bay Area for 15 years. And that's when we started Real Wealth. And so it was a lot of Silicon Valley, executives and busy professionals. And yeah, they don't have the time to do any of that stuff. So it's a little bit more of a done for you type approach. And so that's what that person, so many people come to us. I would call them, they're called Henrys. I don't know if you've heard that one, but it's high earners, not rich yet. And that's the protagonist in my book, The Wise Investor, is that making a good 6-figure income, maxing out his 401k, but and having a lot of cash in the bank, but a lot of that is, getting hit by inflation, that cash in the bank, and they're so busy that they just, can't do it on their own, and their money's not making money. And there are a lot of our clients want to escape the volatility of the stock market or the volatility of crypto. Mm-hmm. So, I think a lot of people just want to get into hard assets.
Yeah, and this is you're definitely here with the right family, because we like hard assets here. So you're making that transition, because I did want to talk about Real Wealth, and then I know one of the things that you mentioned, you'd written a book before, and I know recently that you've had your new book released, and it's The Wise Investor. And I really would love for you to tell us a bit more about The Wise Investor. I know you started talking to us a little bit about Henry now, but because I know the way that it's written, it actually not only has hard facts, but really ties it to fables and a storyline. So maybe tell us a little bit about The Wise Investor, and I'm sure we'll be able to dig into some of the different elements there.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it ties so much into our business. It's interviewing so many of our members at Real Wealth over the years on the podcast and on our webinars, and we do these member investor panels to interview, and ask them what worked and how did you get from where you were to where you are now. A lot of these stories, I was just inspired by them, and that's what I wanted to weave into this book. And so I wrote it as a parable, because a parable and a story has the ability to take information and make it emotional, to actually elicit a change. And so many people, we spend more time with entertainment than education. But the most successful people put their focus on education and not just entertainment. There's that balance, some entertainment's fine. But so I just thought, well, if I can weave this into a compelling story that is a page turner, then you're getting the entertainment piece, but also communicating these really, really important lessons about investing, about how wealthy people operate, about everything from growing a business to investing in real estate and why. So that's a lot. So basically, the story follows the protagonist. His name is Ryan Brooks, and he's this hardworking family man. He's got a couple kids, and he's got his wife, but he works so hard that he doesn't have time for his kids, for his wife, or even his life. He's out of shape. He's just feeling like he's in the grind, and at the same time, a lot of his money's going into expenses that are liabilities. They're not assets. And then he meets a new friend and a new mentor who shows him a new way to create financial stability and financial freedom. And this guy becomes wealthy in more ways than one, for sure.
Rich, can I just stop you there? Because I want to go back, because I think you and I know what you're talking about when you say that they're placing their money in liabilities. But a lot of times, because you're so busy, probably most of the people that are either watching us or more than likely listening to us are in their car and they're thinking, what's going on? And they're here, they're intrigued. But maybe give us a concrete example for someone who is still placing their capital in things or placing their money in things that are expenses and not really assets.
Yeah, I mean, the way the mentor explains it to Ryan in the book, to the protagonist, he says that assets are anything that brings you income or better health or happiness or time. Anything that detracts from your income or your happiness or your health or your time is a liability. So it's a little different way than we usually hear to look at assets versus liabilities. It's not only financial, but when you start looking at things through that perspective, you really start to look in your life and say, wow, is this person a liability in my life? Is this boat I'm thinking about buying? Is it a liability? Is it going to add income or is it going to detract? And you can start to kind of put it in those categories. It simplifies it. But that's exactly it. So often we are caught up, especially in America, of keeping up with the Joneses and how we look and what we post on Instagram or Facebook or whatever. And it ends up being the expensive watches, the expensive cars, the boat that you don't really need or don't really use, whatever that might be. And so many people are unaware, and they often don't have even a spending plan or a budget. And they're so unaware of where all their money's going that they don't realize that the saving to invest process can actually be somewhat addictive in a positive way. So it's like you start to really look at that. And so one of the assignments that the protagonist gets in here is to really look at how much he's spending. And then the challenge from the mentor is, I'm going to challenge you to reduce that by 20%. And he's like, no way. There's no way I can reduce my monthly expenses by 20%. But he learns. And then that money that he's saving, he's able to save up enough to get started and really start to invest into hard assets.
Yeah. And it's amazing what happens when you actually write things down, begin to measure them, and then follow up on them. Right.
Yeah.
It's like people, when you hear a lot of times, well, I hope this happens and I hope that happens. Well, probably hope is not a strategy, as long as I was in sales leadership for 26 years. And that hope strategy never really worked for me. But usually when you put things down and you understand what is the baseline, what you need to do, at least to start moving, and then you course correct and you figure out that's going to give you a much higher probability of being able to attain or achieve the goal that you're looking to achieve. Trusting that you're enjoying today's conversation. And you know what? If you're tired of getting crushed by taxes and you're looking for greater freedom to be able to choose what you want to do when you want to do it, make sure that you go to firstgencp.com/going-long and see how we can help you today. Let's get back to the conversation. One of the things that I also want to just highlight that you talk about, which I think is fantastic, is it's not just the financial assets. It's really, as you mentioned, it's health, it's looking at happiness, and also looking at time. Specifically, and this is one of the things that I've recognized even more so. I mean, I've been out of the corporate world now for 6 months. And of course, I come from a family, and I know we didn't talk about this before, I come from a family, my very blue collar family. Both my parents worked 2 jobs and neither one of them went to college. One didn't go to college, one never finished college. Okay. And so there's a lot of focus typically, and I was surrounded by a lot of really high paid software salespeople on the financial aspect. Right. But what I've started to realize, Rich, and I'd love to get your thoughts on this, and maybe there's not one that's more important than the other, but what I've understood now is the way that you invest your time, especially your time, because it is the only asset that is fixed for everybody, whether you're Elon Musk or you're the person who's sleeping under a bridge, it's always the same.
Yep.
That typically has the largest impact on the others. At least one of the things that it's becoming clearer for me. I would love, with your experience in coaching and having a 64,000 plus people, what your thoughts are on that as well.
I mean, I'm passionate about that. Being told I had 6 months to live really rocked me. Okay. And it really had me realize that value of time and getting the most out of every single day, getting the most out of being the best version of myself, the best I can be. So I'm constantly looking at that. And the example of, see, it's almost like blending that coaching background and then the financial background. This stupid kid that thought he could never amount to anything, following this process and realizing that you can get there by working on yourself. When we get better, everything around us gets better. So that's the time piece. It's like investing that time into yourself and into your family and creating that time. And there's a way to create it. It's through creating passive income. And that comes from investing in these assets. It's going to bring that passive income where you can get your level. You can go from this negative cash flow in your life, then you can get to kind of cash flow neutral. Then you become to cash flow positive, where all of a sudden your investments are bringing in more money than your budget. And then you get to financial freedom, where you get to that place where there's enough money coming in, where you have freedom of time and you can have more time with your family. But you have to carve it out in the beginning. You can't wait until you get to financial freedom place. I think it's vital to say, like, how am I living my life now? How am I spending my time? And look and write down what are those things that are most important to you. And then take a look at how much time am I investing into each of these? And often you'll see that it's like, oh, wow, I say that my family's important, but I'm spending a lot more time in the office and at work than with my family.
Yeah, I actually just wrote something on LinkedIn the other day, exactly that thing. Because I actually went through that. I said I want to be the awesome dad and I want to do all these kinds of things. And I have a very good mentor, very strong and loved me a lot and said, hey, look, let's do something. Let's just sit down. You say all these things are important and you want to do this, and let's see kind of where your time is. And I started realizing I didn't even have time marked in my calendar to do things and focus with family, much less have it and not do it. And then when I was aware of it, once again, because it's about being aware, to say, okay, well, as someone is coaching you, as someone is mentoring you through that, how do you get better? It's okay to be at a point where you're not even aware of it, you're not conscious of it. Okay, that's one thing. But once you are conscious of it, what is it that you're doing to actually move towards the goal so that you can become that best version of yourself, so that you can invest your time in the things that make the most important or the most impact for you, for your family. So
that's it. Yeah. That's it. It's carving out the time. It's actually, they talk about paying yourself first financially, right? I think we have to pay ourselves first with time. So it's just what you said. It's like blocking it out, putting it on your calendar. What am I going to do this weekend with my family? Putting it there, blocking it out. When is your shutdown for work? It's like at this time of day, and it becomes almost like your internal algorithm, right? It's like, if this, then that. So if it gets to 5 p.m., then I shut things down. I'm with my family. So,
Rich, for those people that maybe that struggle through that, what have you seen that can help them? Because it happens to a lot of busy people. Hey, I'm going to shut down at 5 and I'm shutting down at 6:30 every day. What do you say to that person that's just having that internal struggle?
To do it, like to actually do that. Well, I mean, there's two things. One is, I think it's really powerful to write your own eulogy. It's a really powerful. Have you ever done that one, Billy?
I have. Yeah.
It's really powerful. Is it really? Because it's that memento mori, right? That the Stoics used to share. It's like realizing that we are all going to die, and it could be today. It could be tomorrow. It could be in 6 months. It could be a lot longer. However, so what are you going to do? It's like not just realizing that. So one, it's that writing the eulogy, I think, is really powerful. But beyond that, as far as that daily implementation, I think it is having a mentor or a coach. I have a coach that I talk to every Friday, and he helps me check in. I actually have this coaching sheet, and I have on there the times that I want to spend with my family, that I will. It's a commitment. And then I'm checking in with him on Friday, and I'm sending that form to him, and he's going to take a look at it, and he's going to hold up the mirror and say, how are you living? You said you were going to do this. What got in the way? So it has to be that constant reflection. And if you're not doing the reflection for yourself, you need someone else to hold up the mirror and make you reflect.
Yeah, I really like that. So the eulogy and having someone that's there to hold you accountable, to be able to do that. I know having children, that's one of the things that helps me. I have a constant reminder now, because my kids are getting older, and it's just a matter of not that how old are they, but I think about it now, how many summers do I have?
Oh, I love that.
Right. So because it really puts things into perspective. I was talking to a friend, and they helped me to also do the same paradigm with visiting family and friends in the US, because it's not about how many more years, because really how many more times are we going to see one another? Of course you see one another, you talk on FaceTime or Zoom or whatever, but it is a very different, how do you optimize every single moment that you have, especially when you're physically together? So, one of the other things, and I know we've maybe touched around it a little bit, but one of the things that with the book, and we talk about even with your network, Real Wealth, when you consider like real wealth, I mean, that's what your whole network is based on. And I know you touch on some of that in the book as well, but maybe if you could talk to people to help us understand conceptually What is real wealth?
We're right on the topic right here. It's like why we call the company Real Wealth, because it's beyond just wealth. Well, real wealth to us is having both the money, but also the freedom to live life on your own terms. So it's the ability to do what you want, when you want, with the people that you want to be with, and to enjoy each moment. That's real wealth. So it's we actually have a real wealth assessment on our website. It's just simple. It's realwealth.com/assessment. Real simple. And you can go in there and there's 20 questions that have you really take a hard look and you rate yourself of your satisfaction on 1 to 5 on each question. And it's questions around, do you have financial advisors in place to help you? Do you have good control over your finances and have an income statement and a net worth statement and a profit and loss statement already at your fingertips? And it also says, do you have the time to be able to spend with the people that you love and care about? It asks you questions about your health and fitness. So it's that whole encompassing holistic view on wealth, which we see as real wealth. And then by the time you complete the assessment, you get a total score. Most people who do it the first time come in around about 50 or 60. I bet your listeners who are more, on this path of making things happen would probably come in more in the 70 or 80. But the goal is to be up in that, over 80, more in that 90 to 100 range. And so it kind of highlights things in your life to really look at it. Of course, coming from my coaching background, I love tools that can help us structure and realize things and do assessments like that. But you can say like, oh, okay, where am I lacking? What do I have to change in my life to really experience real wealth so I'm fully satisfied?
Fantastic. So, and that's once again, it's realwealth.com/assessment. Rich, could you also remind it? I didn't ask you earlier, the book, because I know that there's also a website for the book, The Wise Investor.
Yeah, it's just thewiseinvestorbook.com. Okay. Yeah, fantastic. It's on Amazon. It's on all major booksellers. Right now it's on Kindle as an ebook because of supply chain issues, as you know, we're dealing with, and printing takes 7 months now to print a book. It's crazy. So anyway, the hardcover comes out in August and along with the audiobook.
Okay, fantastic. And we'll include that in the show notes, and you'll get a chance to talk about that then as well as at the end. But it was at top of mind, so I just wanted to do that. So listen. So the thing is, Rich, we're gonna have to get ready and get to the Going Long final 3. And so, so the thing is, I guess just one last question before we get to the Going Long final 3 is sometimes this one thing can happen, and I just want to draw on your experience from as a professional coach as well. But what happens when you get those kind of like negative thoughts in your mind? And this, a lot of times people, maybe you're thinking, you know what, this all sounds great, but it's so easy because everything that I'm doing right now is stock market and this stuff. I'm using stock market as an example, but it could be anything where you just basically you want to move in a direction, but you keep having that negative self-talk. Yeah. When you see that kind of example, because I'm sure you see it a lot probably, what do you do to help that person that's experiencing that kind of negative self-talk?
No, it's a great question. I've coached everything from CEOs to homemakers and attorneys to artists. And every single person I've ever coached, including myself, has this little voice in their head, that negative voice. Like I said earlier, mine was, you're stupid, you're never going to amount to anything. It still gets me. It still comes in. And so that little voice, I like to call it the gremlin. There's an amazing book called Taming Your Gremlin that I read in my coaching certification process. And the gremlin is those whispers in your mind that tell you you're not enough, you're going to fail. Look, this is going to be just like 2008. Don't invest now. Look, your friend lost money in real estate. So, it's all those negative voices. So how to handle that? The best thing to do is notice it. That gremlin is so powerful when it's in the dark because it's in our subconscious mind. So the process that I use and I think is really powerful, and when I coach a client, it's just for that to slow down. You take a few really deep breaths, which actually affects your heart rate variability. It slows you down. It relaxes you. It has you more confident, more grounded. And then you just ask that little gremlin, you're like, okay, gremlin, what are you worried about? What do you need here? What are you saying? And you let it go. You let it say what it wants to say. And it's incredible. Your subconscious mind starts to bring up all these things. And then you just say, okay, thanks. Thanks for communicating with me. Thanks for letting it. It sounds hokey and weird, but it's amazing what happens. Your subconscious mind starts giving you these answers. And then you can just say, okay, I hear you. What do you need from me? What do you need from me so I can move toward this, so I can go after this, so I can take action? And that little gremlin, that little inner voice, which is really just a protector, it's trying to protect us. It's trying to do its best job, but it often overprotects. A lot of times it will just say, well, I need you to figure this out. I need you to learn this. I need you to find a mentor. I need you to find someone else who's done this, whatever it might be. I need you to do more due diligence. And then all of a sudden it starts. And then you're like, okay, anything else, anything else, anything else. And it tells you these answers. And then you use that to move forward. So it actually, instead of trapping you and holding you anchored down, it actually facilitates and helps you move forward because it gives you answers. It's really powerful.
Fantastic. So I love that. And being able to talk to that gremlin, draw the questions, be able to be aware of what's happening, and then be able to take specific steps and be able to move on. So I appreciate you sharing that. I knew you were going to knock that one out of the park. So, and also helping a lot of people that, myself included, yourself included, that have these negative talk, or the gremlins, as you say. That
oh man, I hear mine all the time, but the process works.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, listen, so it's time for the Going Long Final Three. And the thing is, Rich, I never ask any of our special guests, and today you're our special guest, the Going Long Final Three, unless you tell me that you're ready. So are you ready?
I'm ready.
I knew you were born ready, man. I knew you were going to say that. I knew you were good to go. So here you go. So the very first of the Going Long Final Three is I started with you over on that side of the pond on the left coast of the US. I'd like to bring it back to this side of the pond now, since this is my adopted home side of the pond, I guess you would say. And help us understand, Rich, what is your favorite European city that you've either visited or still on your bucket list to visit?
Oh man. Well, it was Kitzbühel, Austria, but it just changed less than a year ago. It's Mallorca. I went there to visit my daughter who is living in Barcelona. We hiked Montserrat. We went to La Familia Sagrada, which is amazing. Yeah. And then we went over to Mallorca and we stayed at this 5-star hot springs place with a Michelin restaurant. And what a beautiful island, the beaches. And so anyway, Mallorca.
Mallorca is absolutely fantastic. When living here in Barcelona, I used to spend about 2 to 3 days a week there for about 6 years. So
nice.
So we'll talk about that. It's a short 25-minute flight, as you all know, but yeah, it's a pretty nice place. Nice place.
Yeah, very nice.
So here we go. So the second of the Going Long Final Three, this really has a lot to do with the good fortune that I've had in being able to meet a lot of very successful people. And I consider you to be someone who is very successful, impacting tens of thousands of lives across the globe. And
thank you.
And one of the things that happens, Rich, and hopefully you agree, like one of the things that happens with really successful people, they, unlike most people, whenever they try something, they put a plan together. When they start to execute on the plan, they get everything right the first time, which allows them to actually go much. No, don't worry, Rich. It's just a joke. Rich was really worried about me, guys. He was worried about me. He was like, "No, hang on a second." No, and it's not the jet lag. It's just kind of a joke. It's an inside joke with me and the Going Long family. Of course,
funny. Gotcha.
Of course, most people don't get things right the first time, man. Especially successful people. The reality is, Rich, and hopefully you agree, because this is serious. Really successful people, they make like 20 to 50 times more mistakes than anybody else.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're trying lots of new things. But something that is very serious and something that I have recognized, and this is no joke, is that every time there is a relevant mistake, the most successful people, without a doubt, stop every single time. They learn from the mistake or the learning opportunity, or however you want to call it. And then from that, they put different strategies, tactics, and actions in place to minimize the probability of that exact same thing happening again.
Yes.
So what I'd like for you to think about, Rich, now is not really the learning opportunity or the mistake that you made, but what is the one lesson that you know that the Going Long family needs to hear today to minimize the probability of that same thing happening?
Oh, I'm very clear on this one, because the mistake was Kathy and I were advising people to sell their high-priced California properties and 1031 into cash flowing properties. And we did that somewhat. And also it was like, here, take our advice because we're not using it. we didn't follow it. So we held on to several of our high priced California properties that were negative cash flow. And then 2008 hit, and it really hit us hard. And we also had short-term construction loans that came due, and then Lehman Brothers collapsed. And, everything lending shut down. We were like, oh, we'll just refinance these properties later. And we couldn't refinance them. So that hit us really, really hard. So the big lesson that I would love to share with your listeners is to make sure that a investment property makes sense from the day you buy it. When you do the math on it, do not buy based on appreciation, thinking it's going to happen. Make sure at least there's a little bit of cash flow in there. Make sure that you have the reserves. So if you get hit hard, you can't refinance something. Don't do short-term bridge loans, and especially in today's economic climate. So that would be the big one. Make sure that you have the reserves, at least 6 months reserves. So if things go bad, if things go south, you can still control the properties that you own. And had we done that, if we had the reserves and we could have not gone negative cash flow, we would still own a lot more of those properties today, and they would have appreciated. They would have tripled by now in value.
Well, appreciate your vulnerability, sharing that with us, and also Going Long Family. Today, Rich is sharing that with you so that you understand when you're looking at purchasing that asset or investing in that asset, that it makes sense from day one, and also that either yourself or if you're investing with other people, that you have adequate reserves to minimize the probability of negative things happening in the unlikely event of downturns and things like that. So appreciate you sharing that with us, Rich. We already talked about your book earlier, The Wise Investor. And in this way, one of the things I'd love for you to do is share with us, just to help feed everyone's mind once again, what is one other book that you would recommend to us today?
One other book. Man, it goes all over because there's
anything. It can be anything. Whatever you feel like is today is the thing to be talking about.
This is not a shameless self-promotion, but it's my wife's book. It's called Retire Rich with Rentals. And it's just right up the alley of, what you preach. Retire Rich with Rentals. It's how to create ongoing cash flows so you don't have to work forever. So it's the perfect fit. It's Kathy's wisdom of the last 20 years investing, all wrapped up into a book that's $20. It always amazes me how people put so much into a book, so valuable.
Yeah. Fantastic. So Retire Rich with Rentals. You'll be able to find that as well. We're going to make it really easy, everyone. Don't worry. You can keep running on the treadmill or doing whatever you're doing. We will put a very easy link that you can click on. So Rich, these conversations just absolutely fly by. I'm thinking about you talking to us, although it wasn't diagnosed at 8 years old with your ADHD and you were being bullied, and that put you into the gym and got you strong, and you learned discipline, you learned about setting goals, you learned about putting systems in place and structure. And, and then in 1995, you take a flight from the right coast to the left coast, and you start your life there, and you get into the coaching aspect. You start recognizing how many more lives you can continue to impact as you were there in the fitness space. And you and Kathy found yourselves at a point where you had some real life situation. Fortunately, it was a maldiagnosis, but you looked at that moment in time, and you and Kathy had to realize, what are the things that Kathy is going to be able to do in the moment that you are no longer here? And so what that allowed the two of you to do is really focus. Number one, allow Kathy to say, okay, what are we going to do? And from there, not only did it have a positive impact on you and your family, but it's now impacting 64,000 plus people and growing around the globe through your Real Wealth Network. And also, you've been able to put together your wisdom in fables and be able to talk to us through The Wise Investor. You continue to make impact on lives. And I know that there's so many people, we've given them a couple chances already, but that want to understand, what is the best way to get in touch with you, Rich, with the Real Wealth Network, and also find out more about your book. So help us understand, where can we find out more to get in touch with you and your team?
Awesome. Yeah, I'm happy to share that. And I am going to label you the great summarizer. That was amazing. You just summarized that whole story all in one. That's pretty awesome. I love that. So anyway, there's only one Rich Fettke in the world. So if you just type in Rich Fettke, Fettke, you can find me. It's Rich Fettke on Instagram and Facebook. And then, as you said earlier, the book website, if you want to learn more about it, is thewiseinvestorbook.com. You can learn more about it. One thing I didn't mention is Robert Kiyosaki wrote the foreword for it. So honored for that. And so I'm now a Rich Dad author, which is pretty cool.
Well done.
And then our company website is just realwealth.com.
Okay, fantastic. Well, like I said, Rich, I want to thank you very much from the bottom of my heart for deciding to invest your time with us here today on the Going Long podcast with me and the Going Long family. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's a good
All right,
time.
perfect. Hey, listen, Rich, if you give me like 15 seconds, just want to wrap things up here with the Going Long family, and then we'll be out of here. So listen, Going Long family, what can I say? I mean, Rich really left it all here from the right coast to the left coast. He's talking about the way that he's found his discipline, be able to set goals. And now not only he's done for himself, also for so many other people around the globe. For busy, high-paid professionals, he's also talked to you about the way you can find out more. He's given you talk to you about an assessment that you can take. So you know what? Take him up on that. And more importantly, share today's conversation. Don't just do this by yourself. Share it with other people. Have the conversation, because that's going to help you to grow, become more knowledgeable, and move from theory to practice. And so while you're doing that, I'm going to be preparing for the next conversation. So until then, go out and make it a great day. And thank you very much. Trust that you enjoyed today's conversation. And once again, today's conversation was sponsored by First Generation Capital Partners. If you're an accredited investor and want to find out more about how we're helping accredited investors to gain their personal freedom even faster, go to firstgencp.com/going long.